You have been waiting. You call it patience. But the thing you are waiting for is not coming, and somewhere in you, you already know that. Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I am EPICTETUS, and today I am joined by Carl Jung and LAOZI. Today we are examining, how do you know when patience has become avoidance? Let us be precise about what patience actually is. Patience is not waiting. Patience is enduring something difficult while continuing to act rightly. The moment you stop acting, the moment you sit down and tell yourself you are being wise by doing nothing, you have left patience behind. You are now simply avoiding. The question is not how long you have waited. The question is whether you are waiting with intention or waiting instead of deciding.
I would push back on that framing immediately. You are treating this as if the person always knows what they are avoiding. But the whole problem is that avoidance disguises itself. It does not show up wearing a sign. It shows up wearing the costume of virtue, patience, prudence, not wanting to act rashly. The psyche is extraordinarily good at making cowardice look like wisdom. So the question is not just what you are doing. It is what you cannot bring yourself to look at directly.
You are both starting from the assumption that action is the measure. Epictetus says patience must include acting. Jung says avoidance masquerades as patience. But neither of you is asking whether the situation itself is asking something different from you right now. Sometimes what looks like avoidance from the outside is simply not forcing what is not ready.
That is a convenient philosophy for anyone who wants to stay comfortable. Not forcing what is not ready. How do you know when it is ready? You wait until it feels easier? That feeling of readiness you are waiting for does not arrive on its own. You create it by moving. The discomfort you are avoiding is the readiness you are waiting for.
Epictetus, I think you are describing one type of person very accurately and then applying it to everyone. For certain people, yes, the push is exactly what is needed. But there are people who have been conditioned to act compulsively, to mistake movement for progress, to fill silence with action because stillness terrifies them. For those people, genuine patience, real waiting, is the hardest and most honest thing they could do. The question of which type you are is not trivial. It is the whole question.
Jung is right that there are two kinds of people here, but I think he is still describing it in terms of psychology, as a problem inside the person. I would say it differently. The confusion between patience and avoidance comes from looking inward for the answer, when the answer is actually in what is in front of you. If you stop watching yourself and look at the situation clearly, you usually already know whether movement is called for.
Now we are getting somewhere. You say, look at the situation clearly. Fine. But most people are not looking at the situation. They are looking at how the situation makes them feel. They confuse their fear of the outcome with a signal that it is not yet time. That is the trap. Fear says wait. Wisdom sometimes says wait too. How do you tell them apart?
That is precisely the right question, and it cannot be answered by examining the situation alone. The answer lives in the interior. When avoidance is operating, there is usually a specific quality to it. A kind of relief that mixes with anxiety. You feel better for not deciding, and then almost immediately you feel worse. The relief is too quick. Genuine patience has a different texture. It is uncomfortable, but it is stable. You are not running from something. You are holding something.
The texture distinction is useful, but I want to say something simpler. Most people already feel the difference. They are not confused about whether they are avoiding. They are hoping someone will tell them it is acceptable to keep avoiding. The question they are asking out loud is not the real question. The real question is whether they will have the honesty to admit what they already know.
Yes, and that is where I have no patience for soft answers. Admit what you already know. That is not complicated. That is a choice. You are choosing in each moment whether to look directly at the thing or to keep it slightly out of focus. And you are telling yourself you are being patient while you do it. Call it what it is.
But calling it what it is requires that the person can actually see it, and that is not always the case. I am not making excuses for avoidance. I am saying that the self-deception involved is often genuine, not strategic. The person truly believes they are being patient. They are not performing wisdom. They have convinced themselves of it. And that kind of blindness requires more than a command to look harder. It requires understanding how the blindness was constructed in the first place.
I think both of you are circling something without landing on it. The real difficulty is not seeing the difference between patience and avoidance. The real difficulty is that seeing it clearly forces a decision, and that decision has consequences. So the blur between patience and avoidance is not always accidental. It is sometimes maintained deliberately because clarity would cost something the person is not prepared to pay yet.
Then say that plainly. You are not confused. You are protecting yourself from what clarity would require. That is a choice. It may be understandable. It may even be temporarily necessary. But do not call it patience. Do not dress it up. Own it for what it is, and then decide whether you want to keep doing it.
There is something important in what LAOZI just said that I want to develop. When avoidance persists over a long period, it tends to accumulate. It does not stay static. The thing being avoided grows heavier. And the story we tell ourselves to justify the avoidance grows more elaborate. So the person who was simply postponing a difficult conversation 6 months ago may now have constructed an entire narrative about why the conversation is impossible or unnecessary, or why they are actually the one being patient in an impossible situation. The avoidance has become part of their identity.
That is when it becomes most dangerous, not because action is urgently required, but because the person has lost their footing. They no longer know what they actually believe about the situation. They only know the story they have been telling, and every day they continue telling it, the distance between the story and the reality grows wider.
Which is why I return to the body, not to psychology, not to story. What do you feel in your chest when you imagine doing the thing you have been postponing? Not relief, not calm, the slight nausea of something true. That is your indicator. Not some elaborate self-examination, not mythology. The body already knows. Follow that.
I appreciate the pragmatism, but the body also carries fear. And fear is not always pointing at avoidance. Sometimes the nausea you describe is the body saying this is genuinely not the right moment. You are taking a somatic signal and interpreting it in only one direction.
You are both right, and you are both incomplete. The body carries information. The story we tell about the situation carries information. Neither one alone is enough. What matters is whether you are willing to hold both without immediately reaching for the one that lets you stay where you are.
Willing. There is the word. This is entirely a question of willingness, not capacity, not readiness. Willingness. Are you willing to find out which one it is? That is all. Most people are not asking whether they can see clearly. They are asking whether they are willing to.
And that unwillingness, I would argue, is worth examining with some compassion. Not to excuse it, but to understand it. People do not avoid because they are lazy or weak. They avoid because at some point, moving forward cost them something they were not equipped to handle. The avoidance is a learned response. It was once protective. The work is to recognize that what was once protection has now become a cage.
A cage the person holds the key to. That is the strange part. They built it, and they can open it. But they have lived inside it long enough that they have forgotten the key is in their hand.
Beautiful. And entirely useless if the person does not open it. Knowing you hold the key is not the same as turning it. We keep finding new ways to describe the problem without insisting on the movement. I will insist on the movement. The time is not going to become right on its own. The fear is not going to dissolve before you begin. You move and then it becomes clearer. That is the order.
I do not disagree with that order, but I would say, before you move, name clearly what you are afraid will happen if you do, not in vague terms, specifically. The answer to that question will tell you a great deal about whether what you are facing is external difficulty or internal pattern.
And when you have named it, do not immediately try to fix it or overcome it. Just let it be what it is for a moment. See if it is as solid as it seemed. Often it is not.
Often, not always. And at some point the examination must end and the action must begin. Jung, you could examine indefinitely. LAOZI, you could observe indefinitely. But this person in front of us has a decision they have been postponing, and they need to make it. So let us give them something useful. You have heard the argument. Now hear what the argument was really about. Patience is a discipline. Avoidance is a habit. They can look identical from the outside, and sometimes even from the inside. But there is one test that does not lie. Ask yourself this. Am I waiting because there is something I am genuinely gathering, some clarity, some information, some healing? Or am I waiting because I cannot bear what happens the moment I stop? If the waiting has a direction, if it is moving towards something even while you are still, then it is patience. If the waiting is just the absence of deciding, if it feels like breath holding rather than preparation, then it is avoidance. You already know which one it is. The difficulty is not identification. The difficulty is honesty. Here is what avoidance costs that patience does not. Avoidance accumulates. Every day you spend not deciding, the thing undecided takes up more space. It follows you into other rooms. It colors other conversations. Patience, real patience, is focused and temporary. Avoidance is open-ended and expanding. Notice which one you are living in. Today, try this. Name the one thing you have been telling yourself you are being patient about. Write it down. Then write one sentence about what you are actually afraid will happen if you stop waiting. Just one sentence, specific and honest. Do not try to solve it. Just look at it directly. That one act of looking is already the beginning of something different. The waiting you call patience may be the bravest thing you are doing, or it may be the most comfortable lie you have ever told yourself. Only you know which one, and you knew before you started listening today. The debate is over. The examination is done. What remains is the key in your hand and the choice about whether to use it. Do not wait for a better moment. This is the moment. It has always been this moment. If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Trebier, 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.